Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at the Jazz Corner of the World, Birdland, here in New York City. Making her New York City debut is Toronto, Ontario native Emilie-Claire Barlow. Over the span of 30 years, Emily has become a critically acclaimed international vocalist, and this is her debut here in New York City, performing music from her 12th self-produced album titled Sparkburg, which is on her Empress Music Group label. Now tonight here on the Pace Report, you're not only going to witness and see highlights of her debut performance here at Birdland, but we had a chance to sit down and talk about why it took so long, over 30 years, to make her debut here in New York City, as well as reflect on the theme of the album Sparkburg, which is relationships to birds. Also, we sit down and talk about some of her major influences growing up in Toronto. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights of the New York City record release of Emilie-Claire Barlow's album Sparkburg here at Birdland, here in the Pace Report, here in New York City. congratulate you on a couple of things. First of all, this is the New York debut, and this is also the official New York record release of your new record.
Yeah, it is a big day. It's a big day today, and to have all of these things collide. I mean, there was some good planning involved, you know, but there was also, I think, a little bit of serendipity. Birdland was my #1 choice of clubs to play in New York, and I've never played New York before, 25 years into my career. And I started with Birdland, and I thought, this is the place that I want to make my debut. And when they, you know, when we talked about some dates, I made the record release happen on those days because I thought it's just too good to pass up an album about birds at Birdland. You know?
In the Mecca of Jazz.
In the Mecca of Jazz, New York City.
What took so long?
Well, you know, I had a variety of different agents that I worked with over the years. Maybe the United States was not at the top of their radar. And also, it's difficult as a Canadian to come and work in the United States. There's a lot of paperwork to be done. It's very expensive. You need to plan months and months in advance. So there's a lot of things. It's kind of like a bit of a catch-22 situation you run into often. So a lot of things have to go right. It takes a tremendous amount of planning. So those two things affected how long it took me to get here. Finally, I just decided this is the time I'm going to take it upon myself to book these shows, and now I've booked a U.S. tour.
I interviewed Jane Bunnett, who also did her official New York record release here. She said the very same thing about it's kind of not like going to Europe. The States is a little different. What's it like performing to an American audience for your first night? How's it feel, and what did you feel as far as a musician, the response from the music fans?
Well, and I just want to be clear, like, it is not for lack of desire to play here. I mean, listen, I would have been touring the U.S. for years had I had some proper representation. But, you know, no time like the present. And the audiences here have been absolutely fabulous. We're about a week into the tour. We've been in Texas, we were in Minneapolis, some Minnesota, and the audiences they're actually a lot like Quebec audiences. And I don't know if you've ever been to Montreal, but the Montreal audiences are super enthusiastic. They are big music fans. They love all genres of music. And you just get that energy when you go on stage, like you can feel the audience is with you. And then, of course, I'm putting out a lot of energy, and it becomes this cyclical thing. You know, that energy comes back to you, not to sound too hippy-dippy, but it's a real thing. You know, you get this wonderful exchange of energy, and that's what's happening here in New York. New York, obviously, the city itself has so much energy. And I feel like people are open-minded. You know, even if they might not know what they're coming to see, they're ready to come out and see some music and just kind of take it in and see what happens. And so I like that attitude. And the crowd tonight was absolutely wonderful.
What really knocked me out about this album, in addition to the bird connotations, we'll get into that in just a few minutes, I love Stevie Wonder. And you do Bird of Beauty, which is on my favorite Stevie Wonder album, fulfilling this first finale. How did you decide to interpret this song for this project?
Well, I mentioned this on stage tonight, and my saxophone player, Kelly Jefferson, who is just an incredible player. I mean, he's been with me for about 17 years now. He suggested this song. I said, hey, you know, do you have any suggestions of bird songs that right away, he said Bird of Beauty. And interestingly, I mean, I'm a fan of Stevie Wonder, but I didn't know that song. So it was great for me to discover the song. I loved the lyrics. There awaits you a ticket at Please Have a Good Time Station. I mean, what a fabulous lyric. So I loved the vibe of the song, the message of the song, because I wanted this album to have a real message of hopefulness and freshness, colorfulness, springtime. So the song really fit. And there's a section in the middle where he sings in Portuguese. So I wanted to lean in to the Brazilian aspect of the song, and so really, you know, lean into those elements of the original. Immediately I had an idea that I wanted to incorporate these unison lines with on the recording is flute and piano. I love the sound of flute and piano together, and it's something that's used in Brazilian music a fair bit. So yeah, I wanted the arrangement to be kind of spacious, but tight, you know, to have these little details in every little bit of the song, to have some special little detail. So that was kind of how I approached it.
You know, Skylark is such a very important song in the canon of, we call it the American Songbook. But my favorite rendition of that is Now Yours. But my go-to rendition of Skylark is Abby Lincoln. And the lyric is just so, oh my God, it's why did you decide to do this?
Well, this is a song, this is interesting actually. So my graphic designer and the woman who I have collaborated with on 7 albums in terms of design and artwork, Caroline Brown, I happen to know that that's her favorite standard. And so it was kind of on my radar. She used to say to me, she never suggests repertoire, but she was like, if you ever decided to record Skylark, I would love it. And then when this concept came up, I thought, well, this is my chance to do it. And it's been done so many times. So this is always the danger. You think, well, okay, does this song need to be done yet again? So what I wanted to lean into on this song was, you know, really focusing on those lyrics and that beautiful melody, that beautiful Hoagie Carmichael melody, and to kind of bring in like the sexiness of it, the bluesiness, the sexiness of it, that I feel the lyric speaks to, this maybe this secret lover and the Skylark being a messenger between these two lovers. So I wanted to do one full chorus just with guitar. My guitarist Red Schwager is just extraordinary, and picking just the right tempo, that slow tempo, to bring out the bluesiness and bring out the romanticness and the sexiness of it. And then just when you think, you know, you're settling into the guitar voice combo, on the album we have this swell of strings that appears. And that's a Toronto-based violinist, Drew Jureka, who did the arrangement. Just a wonderful arranger. And so that kind of takes us into a modulation and a new place. That's just a little bit of backstory about how the arrangement went.
The duck was dancing by the rhythm made him feel alright. He was dancing to samba, 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 oh, soon. The goose was skating passing by, hum, 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 just as they made it to the child. All the bottom of the head, and soon. The lovely swans went by, they call them at the stage, loosened up. Choo-choo, take that swan. She don't
this album is your 12th produced record, and Sparkbird is very important to you because, from my understanding, this was all part of COVID and you being in Mexico.
Yeah, that was an element of it. I mean, I never intended to live full-time in Mexico, but I started spending more and more time there. And then, of course, when the pandemic hit, it seemed like, you know what, I think this feels like we had a house there, and I had just sold a house in Canada, so that was my home base. And it felt like a safe place to be. It felt like a place where I could live inside, outside, and the colors and the nature surrounding me really got me through the dark days of the pandemic when all the tour dates were canceled and everybody's thinking, well, what do we do now? So the Byrds played into it in that way. Yes, they were a source of joy. They were a source of inspiration, and I thought, if I'm going to actually pull together an album as opposed to singles, and we listen a lot through streaming to singles now, there has to be a reason for it. There has to be a reason to pull 8 songs together. And so the theme became Birds.
Wow, free as a bird. Can I ask you how you've recorded a couple projects in French, and you are from Canada, but how did the French come into your psyche as far as recording songs in French?
So my name, obviously, Emilie-Claire, is a French name, but I am Anglophone. I was born in Toronto. We only learned a little bit of French in school, but my mom gave me that name because she loves all things French. She just thought it was a beautiful name. So in Canada, my career really took off in Quebec. I started doing a lot of touring there, and I'm a communicator. I want to speak to the audience. I want to tell stories behind the songs, and I want to talk to people after the shows. So I started to learn French just from touring. And I had a publicist there, still have him. We've worked together for 15 years. And he said, one of these days you're going to do an all-French record. And I would say, Simon, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. And he said, well, just think about it as the ultimate French immersion. I was like, oh, you're right. I've been thinking about it the wrong way. Instead of waiting until I feel like I'm ready, how about use this as a tool to learn more repertoire, learn more vocabulary, pardon me. What better way of learning vocabulary than through song, through lyrics, through music?
Wow. Because, on this record, the second song, I believe, French. What's the name of the song?
Fais comme l'oiseau.
There we
Do
go.
you like the bird?
Yeah. It's accommodating because I guess, one, it's always good to hear something that's a little different, but two, because of the fact that you have some French connections, what's the difference between performing in Canada versus performing here or even abroad? Because you've performed all over the world.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, audiences are different, but it really depends on the venue. I would say my experience here so far has been audiences are energetic, vocal, enthusiastic, ready to embrace and love the performance. I don't know if I can really compare. You play some places where the audiences are a little cooler, but I also think that, with the room here, it's such an intimate room, and that's what I really wanted to do with this tour. Is I wanted to play clubs. I wanted to be able to see every face in the audience and really feel, especially after the pandemic, like, hey, here we all are together having this shared experience, and nothing will ever be like this is a unique experience that we're all sharing together, whatever happens on that stage tonight and whatever happens in this room, and that we're in it together. And I feel like that's what I was really seeking with this tour.
And how easy is it for you to do all of this 13 records into your career?
Well, you know, I'm a person that likes to understand all angles of the business, all sides of it. So I'm not afraid to do any job that needs to be done. And I think probably any good business person, you know, a CEO of a company will tell you, like, hey, you know, if that floor needs sweeping and no one's doing it, they're going to do it, because, you know, they understand the importance of every single job and every single layer of it. So for me, that's kind of my takeaway. It's, okay, if this isn't being done the way I feel like it should be done, then I need to learn how to do that job so that I'm going to know if it's being done properly. And I have a passion for learning about every element of the music business. And, you know, I like to be an early adopter of different mediums. I started in the era of CDs. Everybody was listening to CDs. But that started to shift and move towards streaming. And so your strategies needed to change. And how you reach your audience is changing.
And now everybody's going back to vinyl again.
And vinyl's had such a resurgence, and I would like to do this album on vinyl, and so that's a project I think I want to have come out for Christmas time.
Because I know that now it's weird, everything old is new again. Mm-hmm. Blockbuster is now opening video stores again.
They are?
Yes, they are.
Stop.
In California. Yeah, because of the fact people are tired of streaming. And the Blu-ray, you know, you don't have to worry about the Blu-ray, that little circle on your TV screen, you know, when you're streaming. Right. So, and I kind of figured that would eventually happen, because there's a different kind of commune or connection to DVDs, CDs, and albums.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, I think something that I want to say I fight against, but I always want to present to people, is that you can do it all. You know, you don't have to be a purist. If you listen to vinyl, it doesn't mean you can't stream music. You can do both things. You can appreciate lighting a candle, pouring a glass of wine, and putting on a vinyl record, and that experience. And there's a romanticism to it. There's a sort of throwback kind of vibe and a simplicity to it. But then you can also enjoy making a playlist using Spotify or Apple Music and discovering new artists. I mean, for me, that's one of the biggest things that the streaming services have offered me, is I've discovered so much music. I play so much music that I probably wouldn't have known about otherwise. And I've been able to, as an artist, reach people. Honestly, this is why I'm here, because my biggest audience globally is in the United States. And I'd never played here before. How did I reach them? Streaming.
Streaming. The Metropole Orkestra.
Yeah.
Another fantastic record that you recorded. What is it like as a vocalist being backed by 80 musicians? That has to be, I mean, your voice is an instrument, but you've got 80 instruments behind you. How did that feel?
It was extraordinary. I mean, so my partner, collaborator, Steve Webster, he's a bass player, arranger, writer. We worked for a year on these orchestrations. We worked with some other orchestrators as well, and arrangers, to build this repertoire, to go and have 2 days of recording in Hilversum, the Netherlands, with the Metropole Orkest. And you know, you've got to time your recording session down to the minute. Because you've got 65 people on the floor of a studio, and that's very expensive. Right. So you can't be wasting time. Actually, one of the biggest pieces of advice that anyone ever gave to me was have an extra piece of music ready to go. Something that's not critical, but that if you have time, you'll get it, because there's nothing worse than paying for an orchestra and you get through all your stuff and you've got them for another 45 minutes and you don't have anything for them to play. That would be a shame. So we actually did, and we ended up putting it on the album too. But you know, the album Clear Day was a story that I wanted to tell of a certain phase of my life that I felt was a very dynamic, very emotional roller coaster ride, and I felt like I wanted all the colors of an orchestra to tell that story. And so as you can imagine, after all of these months and months of working on the arrangements, to go to the Netherlands with our stack of charts and to meet Jules Buckley, the conductor, and to hear the orchestra playing those notes for the first time was a feeling I will never forget. It was both terrifying because you're thinking, oh gosh, I hope there's no typos and mistakes and errors. And there were, but we sorted it out. So you're equal parts terrified and exhilarated. It's an exhilarating experience. If you ever want to feel alive, just hand your charts to an orchestra.
Wow. Did you perform it live with the orchestra?
Yes, I've done several shows, not with the Metropole Orkest, but with other orchestras that we put together, very custom orchestras in Toronto and Montreal and other places, yeah. So we've got a full orchestral show.
Emilie-Claire Barlow, what does jazz music mean to you?
Ooh, that's so interesting. I mean, for me, growing up, my parents listened, they're both musicians. My mom's a singer, my dad's a drummer. We listened to all kinds of music. We listened to a lot of singer-songwriter, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, and then Singers Unlimited, and then big band music. My dad played in the Boss Brass, which is a very famous jazz orchestra, jazz big band. I identified with jazz music as the big band sound, and with artists like Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett, Bill Evans' album. That was jazz as I knew it. And of course that is jazz, but it also covers such a broad spectrum of sounds. And to me, I guess that's one of the things I love about jazz, is it does cover quite a lot of ground. And often somebody will come up to me after my show at a festival or something, and they'll say, I didn't know I liked jazz, but I really like your music. So what makes my music jazz? I think it kind of verges on the jazz pop realm, but what makes it jazz? Well, we swing, not all of our tunes swing, but we play some swing music. Acoustic bass is an element that's often used in jazz, not always, and it's also used in bluegrass music, but it's an element. Improvisation is a big one, obviously, and the ability to sort of speak this language with your bandmates on stage and improvise and have a musical conversation. I don't think that that's jazz specific, but I think improvising over chord changes in the way that we're doing it would put my music in the category of jazz. But ultimately, for me, it's music. And music is a way of expressing a feeling. Music is a way of escaping. Music is a conversation.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the Jazz Corner of the World, Birdland, here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the talented Emilie-Claire Barlow for her time. Make sure you support her new album, Sparkbird, which is now available on Empress Music Group. For more information on our upcoming tour dates, please visit her online by way of social media, by Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, as well as visit her on her website, EmilieClaireBarlow.com. Also, I'd like to personally thank the talented Miss Roberta Lawrence at DL Media for arranging my time with Miss Barlow. Also, I'd like to personally thank Johnny and his staff here at Birdland and Birdland Theater for their warm hospitality. You guys do fantastic work here. Also, people, I can't stress this enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as follow me on social media by way of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.
Chicks and ducks and geese, fair to scurry. When I take you out in Missouri. When I take you out in Missouri with a friend on top. There's that fringe and see how she flutters. When I drop them high stepping strutters. Nosy pucks will peek through the shutters, and their eyes